This is DRF Race of the Day.
Hi everybody, Mike Beer here. Friday's DRF Race of the Day goes to Los Alamitos, race number 9. It's the Soviet Problem Stakes. It's a $100,000 stakes race. 9 Calbred 2-year-old fillies going to line up here to go 1 mile around the main track at Los Al. Let's take a look at this field of 9 right now. As always, you can get free formulator past performances for this race at the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Pretty interesting field. I think your favorite's going to be on the outside here in number 9. Big Novel comes into this race with the 2 top buyer speed figures in the field. A maiden win, 2 starts back, just ran second in another Calbred stakes race going 7 furlongs. Pretty good effort that day. Going to stretch out to the mile here as several of these fillies are going to do. This horse is fastest on the way in. There's nothing to really knock about her overall form. Feels like she's going to be favored in here. We'll see if her stablemate down towards the inside, number 2 Dendera, who did win at a mile on turf last time, and that makes it 2 wins at a mile for Dendera. So the distance is no issue for her. The problem is both of her wins have come on turf. She's going to switch back to the main track here and see if she can, run her race there and perhaps improve a little bit, which it feels like she'll have to do in order to win this race. But you have no distance concerns with her, and she appears to have a good amount of talent. So she's a contender in this race as well. Number 4, Professor's Pride, right off of a debut maiden win for Eddie Truman. This horse was pretty impressive. First time out, 72 buyer going 6 furlongs. She's also going to stretch out for her second career start. And the horse right outside of her, number 5 at the Spa. There are some questions to answer with this filly, but she's already a multiple stakes winner. So that's an advantage for her. She's off of a little bit of a layoff here. She's going to stretch out for the first time and try to take a step forward. But she started out her career with a lot of potential. So it's an interesting race. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race. Not that surprising, as several of these 2-year-old fillies are going to stretch out for the first time here. That Timeform US is projecting a fast pace for this race. Number 3, Girl Ranger, also a debut winner versus maiden claimers out there up close to the early pace. Professor's Pride, the other debut winner, right there with her, and a couple and right up there as well. Number 6, Smilin' Evie, another horse who it feels like she could show a little speed. She won her debut for Richard Baltus going 6 furlongs with a 61 buyer. She didn't make the lead that day, but she did some chasing, stayed on pretty well to get up. I do expect them to be going early in this race. There are several of them stretching out in distance here. I expect them to be going. I don't know how fast they're going to go in here, but I don't think it'll be a slow pace. Let's try to break this field down really quickly. The number 1, Medea, feels like she's going to be a big price in here. She's a maiden on the way in, 0 for 5. I actually thought she ran well in her career debut in a pretty slow race going 4.5, and then she came back and ran even better in her second career start, just finishing a neck shy of at the Spa in the CTBA. That was a good performance. 3 starts since then has not improved at all. 2 of those in stakes races. Going to try another stakes race here rather than try to break her maiden with her. She's got to stretch out. There's a lot working against her. She's going to be a big price in here, but she has run a couple of good races. Dendera, we already touched on a little bit, is the number 2. Flavian Pratt keeps the call here for John Sadler. It's all about surface for her. I think she's actually going to handle it fine. She's a shaman ghost out of a Scat Daddy mare. I think she'll handle the surface switch just fine. And her 2 wins going a mile on the turf. They're both good performances. We'll take a look at the most recent of those right now. This is an entry-level allowance race at Santa Anita, mile on the turf. Rated this horse back up the pace early, and then Pratt they were going slow in front. He thought he just made an early move up the backstretch, went right by everybody to take the lead over. Clear lead around the second turn. She's staying pretty gamey to the end here. You can see the runner up there, the gray Rose Maddox, who's also back in this field, is making a very game run at her through the stretch, but Dendera's always holding her off. Thought she ran well in here to win as a very heavy favorite. I also liked her maiden win, also over mile on turf. And when you go back and watch her career debut, the only time they ran this horse on dirt, that was a 5 furlong sprint. It just feels like that was a little sharp for her. It's not like she got totally outrun in there, but she just did a lot of chasing down on the inside, went a little bit greenly around the turn. They took her to the outside in the stretch, and she just ran on evenly. I think that distance was too short for her. I think she's going to do better at a mile here. I think she's a major player in this race. Girl Ranger up next. 1 start so far, going 5.5, a maiden 50 versus Calbred. She was the longest shot on the board that day at 35 to 1 for a different trainer. She's going to get a trainer switch here to Michael McCarthy. I mean, she ran fine in that race in the overall scheme of things. It came back with a relatively solid figure at 65. She had speed to sort of keep up close to the pace, won it very easily after taking over in the stretch, and was clear to the wire. I mean, there was nobody running really behind her in there, so it's hard to say how good a race it was. And of course, taking no money, I guess, could be a knock on her, but she ran fine in that race. She'll be a price in here as they stretch her out. right alongside Professor's Pride, another one who won first time out for trainer Eddie Truman. I like this horse's career debut at Del Mar last month. Didn't make the lead in that race, but showed some speed to keep up without having to send it off. She just had easy speed to keep up. We'll take a look at the replay of the stretch run right now. Just, sat on the outside of the leaders, was up there to sort of take over around the turn without being asked to do that. Had the favorite, the 6-5 favorite, who winds up finishing second to her, take a run at her off the turn, and just held that horse off pretty easily. It didn't even look like this filly ever had to go all in to win this race. It came back with a solid 72 buyer. The question, I suppose, is can she take a step forward now as she stretches out in distance? I don't see why she can't do that. She has plenty of pedigree to stretch out. Her trainer, Eddie Truman, is 5 for his last 13, going sprinter route on dirt with a 4.49 ROI. So he gets these horses to stretch out, going sprinter route on dirt. So I think this filly's going to run very well in here, and she ran an excellent race on debut, I thought, at the Spa. Up next, as mentioned, already a 2-time stakes winner, won her debut by 7. That debut when going 4.5 way back in May remains the fastest race she's ever run with a 64 buyer. She did win 2 stakes after that. Didn't run quite as fast. Did beat a couple of the same fillies that she'll meet again in this spot in those races. I thought she ran fine both times. They tried a grade 1 with her last time, and she was nowhere, finishing last. I wouldn't hold that race against her necessarily. It's all about whether you think she can stretch out and whether she can probably take the step forward that she needs to take in this race, because it does feel like even though she's already a stakes winner, she's off of a little bit of a layoff here, and it feels like some of these fillies are probably catching up to her at this point. She's going to have to improve. If she does it, you might get the right kind of price on her, because I don't think she'll be the favorite in here despite having the credentials to be a contender in here. Smiling Evie, another second-time starter in here. A filly who, won relatively easily on debut. It's a hard race for me to get a handle on. It didn't seem like a very strong field. And listen, she just did a lot of chasing in that race, managed to stay on and run by to the lead when the horse that cleared off on the front in there just totally stopped in the stretch. Smiling Evie took over from her, just sort of stayed on, and the runner-up was rallying too late in there, couldn't catch her. I thought she ran fine. The race didn't come back that fast. She doesn't have a ton of pedigree to stretch out either. Those things all concerned me about Smiling Evie, but obviously is a very lightly raced filly who won, fairly clear first time out. I don't want to knock her too hard. I just didn't really want to bet her in here. Rose Maddox is up next. We touched on her a little bit because she's exiting the same race as Dendera, a turf race. And this filly, you saw her rallying very gamely in that race, trying to come from last. I thought she ran really well in there, and I do think she improved stretching out in that race. Her career debut, which came up at Golden Gate on the Tapeta surface, going 5.5 furlongs. She won that day. It didn't seem like a particularly strong maiden race, and closers did run 1-2. But I thought all in all she ran fine in that race. Just really stayed on nicely in there. She was never rushed from off the pace, stayed on the outside, and I liked the way that she finished to eventually get the job done in there. Took a step forward second time out with more distance. This will be her dirt debut. I didn't really see any reason why she wouldn't handle that. She might actually be an okay price in this race too. I could see using Rose Maddox somewhere in this race, especially if she's a big price. Money Penny up next, 1 for 3 so far in her career. The win came 2 starts back. That's all the way back at the end of May, going 4.5 furlongs. Easy winner that day, though, as a very heavy favorite. Came back in her next start and was only second best at the spot. Couldn't make the lead in that stakes race the last time we saw her towards the end of June. Just chased the first and third finishers in that race. They were the 2 favorites. Chased them 3 wide around the track. Couldn't get to them. Was no match for at the spot at the end. Was second best when all was said and done. She has to improve as she stretches out for the first time here. But another filly, has a little bit of talent, hasn't run a bad race yet, could certainly take a step forward here. It might be a fair price. All things that you might want to consider if you were against the favorites in here. Again, it feels like the favorite's going to be on the outside here. Big Novel, she's got the 2 top figures coming into this race. Just ran second in the Golden State Juvenile, going 7 furlongs. To her, very talented stablemate, Big Switch. Big Switch is 2 for 2 now in her career, and she looks pretty good. Big Novel contested the pace that day and was only second best, but I thought she ran fine. We'll take a look 2 starts back. This is her maiden win, going 6 furlongs. We have the replay of that one, and this is just sort of an easy win for this horse. The horse cleared off on her on the lead. She just kept after that horse, sort of sat second all the way around the track, came for that horse off the turn, had no trouble taking over through the stretch, and just sort of won easily at the end of the race. A 77 buyer, though, is, several lengths faster than any of these other fillies have run. She came back with a 74 last time. So plenty of things pointing you in her direction. I suspect she'll be fine with the 1 mile distance. She has the outside post here. I doubt that's a big issue for her. I I think she's the horse to beat in the race. I didn't pick her. I sort of wanted to go in a different direction. I almost put her stablemate Dendera on top because I do think she's going to handle the switch to the dirt. I just want to see what kind of price she is first. I went with Professor's Pride on top. I liked her debut. I think she's going to be fine stretching out, and I don't think she needs to lead it. She just looked like she had really easy speed first time out. So even if she doesn't make the front, they go a little faster. Maybe she can sit a trip here and work out the right kind of trip here and maybe get the job done. I went 4-2. 9 and 5 in Friday's race of the day. It's the Soviet Problem Stakes at Los Al. It's race number 9. 2-year-old Calbred fillies going a mile. The approximate post time just before 7 o'clock Eastern time. Good luck.